Well, since we're talking about Astroworld and old rides, the Serpent. The Serpent is one of those rides that was absolutely boring. I mean, it was really made for kids. That part of the park was what's called Children's Land. Yeah, I think it's called something like that. And then it was rethemed to the Orient or Oriental Land, or had it was rethemed to an Asian theme, basically. And but the Serpent was opened in 1968, and it remained open up until 2005, park's closing and demolition. And if I remember correctly, that ride was it wasn't excuse me, it wasn't sold off, auctioned off, or anything. It was dismantled. Like Texas cyclone, it was it's gone. You know, it's gone forever. But it was a real simple ride, about a minute long-ish. Yeah, a minute-ish long. You had your first little click, 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 click. And instead of having this little woo down, it's like a, just to get speed going. And it's very undulating and kind of just twisty turning, like a snake. The train was actually a snake theme. So you sit it, the head was the head, and the tail was the tail, and each little car was, so it's like a snake, doing this little thing. And it's for kids. Even up until, because I would go to Astroworld every year, and even though it was a very, very tame coaster, very like I said, it's boring. Like, here's the video. This is what you got. What you see is what you got. I still often would hop on it. It's just it's fun nostalgia. Well, when I used to go to Astroworld, part of it was back then I was a coaster junkie. I haven't been on a roller coaster now since Florida, Disney World, with Hulk and Dueling Dragons and all those, But I used to be a coaster junkie. I love roller coasters, and part of going to Astroworld was, ride coasters. That was also part of going on a weekend, on a Wednesday, and avoiding the weekends, because sometimes there was no line, and if there was no line, the dude at the controls would just send us again. And there were times where we rode rides 2-3 times back to back before the train finally came home, and there was people waiting in line. The Astroworld weekend was a big money maker. Weekend, everyone showed up. Weekdays, most adults at work, and we'll get dropped off and let the park babysit us, and which is a lot. If you saw kids, or young teens at the park, that they got dropped off, and that's the parents went to work. So during the weekday, like I said, Wednesday, for some reason Wednesday was that peak season. We go there and no one's at the park. At least not enough to make a difference, because like I said, we would ride rides back to back twice, pull up to the car, and there'd be a few people in line, and we asked the guy if we can hop back on it. So we'll fill some spaces in, and sometimes we'll ride that ride 3-4 times, and if we're lucky, ride that ride, not even get off, just stay in the seat, and just keep it going. So that's what we do. And then we'll hop off that, go to the next ride, and ride that a few more times. And that's what we did at Astroworld. We just hop ride and ride it till we get bored with it, go to the next ride, and then later that day you may go back to it again and ride it a few more times. So, but the Serpent was one of those rides where you ride it once, then it's just nothing much to it. But it's more, for me, it's more of a nostalgia thing, seeing, because I remember that ride being one of those rides that me and my brother kind of think about. Man, you could build this in your backyard. I ain't lying. We schemed and themed and try to how would we build a roller coaster in our backyard? Using lumber and the scrap junk we found and everything, and it never that was one of those rides that kind of inspired us to do stupid stuff like that. But Serpent is gone. But it was fun. If I was had a 4-year-old, throw them on there. They would love it. That's a good introduction to roller coasters. Start off on that one, and then you can work away from that one. Then Excalibur, that'll be, you know, next one up. Next one that wasn't aggressive, no loops. It was just a you know, a regular roller coaster. It was a Viper. It was the Excalibur was a Serpent on steroids, kind of. Think of it that way. Yes, sir. Hot to piece, let you key.